There is a lot of parallels between what I do and sex workers. There is also a lot of parallels between what I do and therapy.
Keeley Shoup cuddles for a living.
What do you remember about our session?
I remember how apprehensive you were at first.
So I know this is not supposed to feel like sexual.
But since we've last spoken 2 years ago, our world has changed.
How many times post-MeToo movement have you heard typically a man remark, well, now I never know what's okay?
And we talk about how it's transformed her business, from teaching consent and boundaries
Always ask. Always ask first.
to how it heals, even those you wouldn't expect.
Have you ever worked with someone who has like openly told you that they have assaulted someone?
Yeah.
What do they tell you about what you've taught them?
Teaching them accountability is the way to prevent that from happening again.
So slip into something comfy. We're unpacking a lot.
It's boundaries, it's consent, and it is deconstructing shame. Trying to validate people's natural, healthy needs and removing shame from it.
This is 30 Minutes with Keeley Shoup.
Welcome to 30 Minutes with everyone. Miss Keeley,
Hi.
we have met before.
Yes, we have.
We have shared bed before.
The way you say that.
What your favorite position was yet?
You didn't, but my favorite position is so boring.
What do you remember about our session?
I remember how apprehensive you were at first. I remember being very pleased that once we found a position that you were pretty comfortable in,
Right.
that I could feel your heart rate slow. And I loved how the banter or the conversation that we had, it changed. It changed once I felt you relax. And that's one of my favorite things about this job anyway.
It's a shame I didn't get like a Pulitzer or a Murrow for that
Right.
investigative journalism. The interview conducted fully in cuddle position. Well, I know this is not supposed to feel like sexual, but this is like very Jack and Rose in Titanic.
Stroking your arm and you're comfy.
Stroked a lot more after knowing someone for 5 minutes, that's for sure.
Right.
You know, that sounds like an orgy. I mean, this is probably a weird question to ask as the big spoon, but like, do you ever get like erections?
Yeah. Well,
You don't.
I personally don't.
How have you progressed as a cuddler? Like, how has your business changed?
I'm really getting more into having the mainstream world see what I do as a very legitimate profession. There is a lot of parallels between what I do and sex workers. There is a lot of parallels. You're meeting people, you are getting more intimate with them than the average person or the average Joe. There is also a lot of parallels between what I do and therapy.
Exactly.
There are a lot of parallels between what I do and massage therapy.
Exactly. So just for people who maybe hadn't seen that piece.
Sure.
What is a professional cuddler?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do?
I get people access to therapeutic platonic touch. So
Okay.
there's several key elements there. Therapeutic, so the touch is meant to either ease stress and tension and ease symptoms of depression. It's meant to help heal trauma from touch, and it's also meant to benefit someone's life. I steer clear from saying it will heal them or fix them, because that implies that someone is inherently wrong or broken.
And implies that there's like a magic solution for everything.
And there isn't. Exactly
No.
right. What you can discover about yourself, about your life, about your health, just staying within the realm of platonic touch is profound.
Who do you typically see come in here to access that?
I would say my most traditional clients are a couple of different archetypes. So there is the divorcee, either man or woman. It is someone who has been in a long-standing relationship. That relationship has ended for whatever reason. They still have the craving, need, and valid desire to have intimacy of some sort, what comfort really is what it boils down to, nurturing, connection. And they are not ready, not willing, and not capable of having another relationship. And on a physiological level, in their relationship, they had ready access to oxytocin. Oxytocin is the neurotransmitter that we produce when we...
I love an oxytocin burst, girl.
Oxytocin, right?
Try. There it is.
Believe me, this is my mantra.
Describe what oxytocin is.
Oxytocin is the neurotransmitter that in your body is produced when you touch another human being. It decreases levels of cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. It lowers your heart rate. It boosts your immune system. It is connected to the parts of your brain that involve connection, that involve trust. It takes you to a place of intimacy, to trust, connection, to a pretty blissful state. It's really wonderful. It's really powerful. And it's meditative in a lot of ways. So having access to that is really important.
Aside from divorcees, who else do you typically see?
There are several people that I see who are trying to deal with trauma or past trauma and work through the touch associated with that. There are people who are really, really busy, just workaholics. And workaholic not as a derogatory term, but the people who have made a conscious decision in their life to focus on career, they still get cuddles, they still get nurtured in a situation like this. And honestly, you'd be surprised at how many average Joes. Those are like the people who it's like very clear reason why they're coming to me, there's a need filled. There's also other healthcare providers who want some nurturing, mothers who have small children, who all of the touch that they receive in life is what I call gimme touch. That's another reason why people in the healthcare profession also come to see me as part of their self-care.
Career aside, what good have you noticed in your life since making that switch to something that seems so much more appropriate for your talents and skills?
It's immeasurable. My life has changed so dramatically that it's nearly unrecognizable, and the evidence of it is in how happy I am, how many projects I take on, how full of love and connection my relationships are. It's so good. It's so good. There aren't words for it. And I did not know prior to doing this job, prior to, as cliche and cheesy as it sounds, prior to finding my life's purpose. I didn't think that was a thing that existed. I thought that was a bunch of BS that people said when they were just like, okay, you do a job because you need to live and make money so that you can go and find a hobby that you really love.
Right. What is your life's purpose?
My life's purpose is improving people's lives by giving them access to platonic touch through boundaries and consent. That's it.
That was the perfect segue line, because when we get back, we're talking about what Keeley teaches other people about boundaries, consent, and levels of touch. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 30 Minutes with Everyone. We are with Keeley Shoup, cuddler extraordinaire.
That's me.
You're a professional cuddler.
That's true.
That's what you do.
Therapeutic touch practitioner.
That's the full title.
Yeah.
Therapeutic touch practitioner. But with that comes a lot of things when it comes to rules of consent.
Yes.
And touch and boundaries. So what do you teach people about consent, and how can we apply that to honestly like a night out at the bar?
Sure. The biggest and most difficult adjustment that people have to make when learning about consent is always ask. Always ask first.
And it's hyper consent. Like, don't think anything is a given.
If you do not have a long-standing connection with that person, or if you're just trying to practice more, always ask. It is awkward at first. It always is, because our society and our culture doesn't normalize it. In movies, how many movies would be devoid of their climax moment if a guy and girl, ingenue and hero, didn't have that tension moment right before the "do I kiss her?
Can I put my tongue in your mouth? Are you okay with that?"
Right.
Yeah.
Movies would fall flat, right? I argue that now there has been a trend in more media where the ask can be a part of that moment and can be a really great part of that moment.
Well, I mean, please, since we've last seen each other, the metoo movement has skyrocketed.
It's exploded.
Not that the problems weren't happening when we last chatted, but now I feel like it's definitely more in the culture and ingrained to be like, don't assume anything.
Right. So, and honestly, it's just courtesy. What I've found is that whereas people are a little bit railing at the change in dynamic, it can be a really fun exploration. Like, hey, can I give you a hug? do you actually want that right now? It can be an open door to more authentic connection. It can be an open door to more rich communication with you and your partners, or just social.
Say they say no to the hug, then maybe take a few notes of the social cues.
Yeah.
And learn what it feels like when someone actually wants a hug.
That actually brings me to my second part of the consent training. We learn how to reframe no.
Okay.
That's a superpower. Reframing no from being rejection into being a positive form of communication is a key. It is a key, and it unlocks so much.
Do you say that as someone who would want to say no, or someone who has to receive a no?
Both.
Okay. Can you give me an example?
Absolutely. So whenever I hear a no, I say, thank you so much for taking care of yourself.
Okay.
I give that positive feedback to the person because there's many, many reasons. But one, if I hear a no from someone, I can trust their yes. How many times post metoo movement have you heard typically a man remark, well, now I never know what's okay?
Oh, that's the biggest talking point out there.
Right. Well, I don't know what to do anymore. If you can hear a no, then you can trust a yes. And you know that person, if that person is comfortable enough to say, no thanks, not right now. No, I don't want to do that. Then you can say, then you know for sure, you have the trust built with them that when they say, yeah, let's do that, you can go for it. You can have a great, meaningful connection.
The green light is greener.
The green light is greener, absolutely.
So what about saying the no?
Saying the no is difficult. Saying no, but there are a couple of things that make saying no a lot easier. First of all, every no is a yes to something else. So if I'm saying no to someone, it's because I'm saying yes to my boundaries. I'm saying yes to protecting myself, and I'm saying yes to a positive connection with them. So when saying no is difficult, find what you're saying yes to, think about that in your head, and it might make it a little easier. The other point that I always say is no is really useful information. Just from like a data entry point scenario, no is
Former
useful.
logistics, yeah.
Right. Formal
It's still here.
It's in there somewhere. I can't just erase 2 years of my life. But here's the classic example. If I'm walking down the street and I am on Main Street and North is coming up, I pass you. Am I on North right now?
No.
Do you feel bad about saying no?
No.
You're giving me the information that I need to successfully navigate my world.
Yeah.
You're showing me kindness. You're showing me respect, right? Because I don't know how to navigate my world without you giving me that important information. It's helpful.
It's so
I can then
helpful.
go and find that fulfilling hug that I want. Same thing with any other kind of interrelationship. Same thing with sex. Same thing with sex. If you say no to someone, you're giving them the information, hey, they're allowed to want and desire sex. They're allowed to want and desire other like experiences. So give them a roadmap to help them go get that.
How do you think our society could benefit if we had this conversation with young people? Like that's the first thing I
That's the
thought
dream.
of. That's the first thing I thought of
the
when you were
dream.
explaining that to me, is like, this shouldn't be a novel concept to someone who is 27.
I think that I would go to say, so far as to say starting in elementary school, but that's progressive. So every middle school, I would say, needs to have an education, a program around consent. I would love to start. I have a program set. I'm trying to debut it into schools. Hasn't quite happened yet, but I would love to debut my program into schools to teach them more in-depth consent training. I think it's important.
And it's a huge part of what you do here, on top of like teaching people boundaries. So what kind of boundaries do you lay out when people walk into your living room?
Inherent with platonic cuddling, platonic touch of any kind, specifically in the professional cuddling scenario, there's a couple of ground rules. We don't ever touch anything covered by a bathing suit. We just don't. That isn't because those areas on bodies are inherently sexual, which is a pretty progressive thing to say, but it's because there's way too much association with those for the average person that to parse out trying to platonically touch like boobs or butt, it's too hard.
A lot to learn on day one.
It's a lot to learn on day one. Whereas like a little kid can come put their head on your chest, you can like stroke their hair and whatnot. That's platonic. It is strictly platonic. So it's not inherently sexual. I don't want to, give breastfeeding moms a bad name, etc. But so we don't touch bathing suit areas. There's no saliva exchange. That's it. Pretty basic. It also helps with a lot of communication, like, well, what is okay and what's not. No saliva exchange. It's pretty basic. And that's the ground rules, and then we discuss between their comfort zone and my comfort zone in the moment.
What is the biggest misconception
About my work?
about your work?
That's a really good question. The most common question is, how do you stay safe, especially post metoo movement?
Like, it's one, a ton of trust.
Yeah.
And two, just like hoping that people are inherently good. And that's what it is.
I believe that. I absolutely, and I meet so many people every week. I see the inner workings. I meet people every week, and I don't just see their facade. I see their inner workings. I see the more intimate, quiet, hidden parts of people every week, of strangers essentially. And it only reaffirms, it only confirms that people are inherently doing the best they can. There is a vetting process, absolutely, but I do take precaution. It takes just as much trust as a massage therapist. I find it interesting that prior to the Me Too movement, the number one question I got is, how do you deal with boners? After the Me Too movement, the first question I get is, how do you stay safe?
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I'm guilty of that. I mean, I definitely asked that in the last interview. It's like,
It's not a bad question. It's a very valid question. I just see the shift, and I think it's interesting.
what's interesting about that?
The assumption in other people's minds was that I was going to be assaulted and that boners are an assault. And first of all, erections happen. It's actually not a big deal. It's a normal bodily.
Throw that up on the screen right now.
Erections happen.
Probably more likely to happen if you associate all touch with intimacy.
It's 100%. Most people cuddling, and this is actually something in my work that is really challenging to get away from. People associate cuddling sex. Not because cuddling is inherently sexual, but because most people only have access to cuddling as a precursor for sex. They don't get a ton of opportunity to just parse those two things out and say, no, I just want to cuddle right now. And that's okay because whatever their sexual needs are fulfilled otherwise.
Yeah. And when we get back, Keeley's going to talk to us about a cuddle conference. She's hosting it. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back. Welcome back to 30 Minutes with Everyone. We are with Keeley Shoup, Cuddler of Cuddlist. And you have cuddled with me before.
That's true.
Which makes me wonder, like, what types of people do you cuddle with, and who has this put you in touch with, across the globe, really?
All types of people. I will say that most people are surprised at the wide range, the diverse range of people who come to me. One of the really cool things that I'm very excited I get to tell you about is Cuddle Expo.
What is it?
Cuddle Expo.
Is it cuddlers from around the world converging on you?
That's exactly it.
Excellent.
Well,
she's got the magic touch.
This is not America specific. This is all over the world. People need this. And that's why me, along with the founder, Faye Wyatt, and co-founder, Lisa Meese, are creating Cuddle Expo. And it is a place where professionals and experts who have been doing this work the longest are going to be able to speak on topics that are really important, that'll help people do this work better. This is building and pioneering an industry.
It's pioneering an industry, exactly. And I think with that, you're probably going to have some people that like scoff at it. What do you tell those people?
I think the most typical places that scoffs come from are honestly from doubt, and that doubt is because they haven't experienced platonic touch and the power of it, and that to me is really is sad. Not sad in a pathetic way, but sad in that my heart goes out to them, and I really wish that they could have access to this kind of a thing.
Has doing this healed you in any way?
Yes. Yes, it has. I am a survivor. Me Too movement was very profound for me as well. And I work with people every day, primarily men, every day, who are capable of assaulting other people because of lack of education. I think these people are wonderful people. I think that they have the potential, I think that we all have the potential for negative actions, for really harmful actions. And our education and our world situation are very, very influential on whether or not we do those harmful actions or not. So in a lot of ways, I see myself as a foot soldier, like on the ground.
Your boots on the ground, baby.
Boots on the ground, fighting for a more conscientious and enthusiastic, consent-aware world. And helping those people get the education they need to be the best people that they can be. I don't think that, and this is going to be
That
really
is beautiful, by the way.
Oh, thank you. And I think that the myth of the monster is a really problematic and damaging archetype. What I mean by the myth of the monster is only monstrous people can do harmful acts like that. And it's uneducated or damaged people who can do acts like that. People who aren't aware of what they're doing and how harmful it is. People who feel like they don't have access to other options. Having more compassion for them in my life and holding people accountable. Accountability is essential. It is non-negotiable. Accountability is the first step to boundaries, right? But accountability with compassion is what I see as the answer, and it's what I employ every day in my work.
Have you ever worked with someone who has like openly told you that they have assaulted someone?
Yeah.
What do they tell you about what you've taught them? Because if you can get anecdotal.
Yeah. With protecting everyone's confidentiality and privacy, and oftentimes they describe situations that they experienced as harmful to them. They experience profound moments of rejection where they thought that where shame came up, where they thought they were being told that they were worthless, where they thought they were being bullied or hurt, and then their actions reacted to that deep hurt they were feeling because of the shame it brought up and because of the lack of access that they have to understanding what's going on. So they didn't say, I assaulted someone. They said, I was hurt. And helping reframe what that looks like, teaching them how to access platonic touch, teaching them accountability is the way to prevent that from happening again. So I am trying to take those people's experiences of hurt, listen to their experiences of hurt, and help reframe how this is how you can not get hurt in the future and how you won't hurt other people.
What is the most rewarding part of your job?
Seeing lives change. The realizations that they come to about their own life simply because they had the space and time and light guidance to get there is awesome. These people I see are brilliant and wonderful people. They are often in pain. I love all my clients so much.
You have the context of a lot of people, though.
Yeah.
I mean, you mentioned that earlier, how you know their innards.
Yeah.
Like,
I know
people's
I know people's secrets. I know because another part of that is essential to this work, it's boundaries, it's consent, and it is deconstructing shame. Trying to validate people's natural, healthy needs and removing shame from it. Because people who come to me, they often feel a lot of shame.
Consent question. May I touch your leg?
I would love that. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Can I touch your hand?
Please. No, thank you so much.
Yeah.
You are wonderful, and I appreciate you spending the time with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.